Professor Thomas Seyfried of Boston College said cancer's fuel is glucose and glutamines. Yeah. How can you starve your body of both of these?
Stop eating sugar, which we do at Hippocrates and have for 4 decades. Glutamine's a little trickier. So healthy plant-based diets has little to no glutamines in it. But even them, we're trying to find a natural way. Dr. Seyfried and I have talked about this on several occasions, a natural way rather than a chemical way. Currently they're using chemicals and they're getting a fair result. Fair is not good enough. There's nobody who's really challenging Dr. Seyfried. He's done the work. He put the book out. He put the research out called Cancer as a Metabolic Disease. And why we resonate with one another is that although we didn't do science nearly at the level he did, we've done clinical work looking at people, he gave us some of the understanding we didn't have before. The glutamine is sort of new to me. I've known about that since 15 years with him. But the fact is, that's the one that's a little tricky. Eating a good Hippocrates plant-based diet, you're going to dramatically reduce the glutamine rather than conventional mainstream things. And the fruits have to go. Nobody with cancer should eat any sugar, period. And by the way, if you eat too much of it, you can get cancer.
What are the 10 most important supplements that everyone takes? And what are the next 10 most important after that?
Well, let's start with number 1, B12, which everyone requires. Everyone else doesn't require that. I mean, B12, everyone. The second one, I can't say everyone can have. I'd prefer you all took algae. Let's go through the list again. Number 1 would be blue-green algae. Number 2, its brother or sister, chlorella, a green algae. Number 3, phytoplankton. This is grown in man-made vats around the world. The Dutch are doing the best job of that. The next one are sea vegetables. Now, before we leave that area, remember the very first life form was blue-green algae. Second life form were sea vegetables. And then we went to grasses. So then it would be the green powders that are completely raw. Years ago I did research and found out that 6 out of 10 green powders that were told to be raw were not really all raw, because they have no laws that govern that have to tell you the truth on that. So you would use a high quality one. You know, we manufacture, but others manufacture high quality ones. The next thing I would tell you is flower pollens, if you're a very strict vegan, or a bee pollen, but they do abuse the bees in that one. Nutritionally they're similar without the bee abuse with flower pollen. It costs a little bit more. Sarentin is a company out of Sweden. They've done massive research on it for the brain, for prostate, for circulatory activity, for cancer reduction, immune function, etc. So that's helpful. An ionic form of zinc. Zinc, we know, does reverse colds by 1/3. So if you have a 6-day cold, it's a 4-day cold. You know, 4-day cold, you know, you get the picture, it's a 3-day cold. And if you also look at zinc, it boosts the immune system and has a lot to do with your hair. Keeping it on your head and the color of your hair, that and copper in combination does it. And people like to keep their hair as dark as they can, as long as they can. Another mineral is selenium. I spoke about that earlier because of the thyroid, but we didn't expound on that and talk about all the glands, the genitalia for both male and female, ovaries for women, testes for men. Incredibly important, selenium, organic seleniums, ionic forms. Ionic meaning electrically charged. There's a wild difference between the kind of minerals that are usually bought at a health store and real minerals. Real minerals, like you get from food, have an electric charge, and that's how the cell absorbs them and utilizes them. We go back and talk about ground up rock, that most minerals you're buying, all it does is cause hardening of the arteries. It doesn't give you minerals. That's a non-organic mineral. So ionic selenium. I'd also like you to take magnesium. One of the things that I rarely lack anything every 4 or 5 years, although I'm getting magnesium from eating raw almonds all of the time, high magnesium diets. Wheatgrass has magnesium in it. I'm drinking that every day. But when you get a whole lot of activity going on in your life, I lift heavy weights 3 days a week. I do aerobic exercise 7 days a week, sometimes 6, but usually 7, an hour, 2 hours, go on 2.5-hour walks. You can burn out magnesium. It's a muscle relaxant, and nobody wants to lack magnesium. You want an ionic form of that. And another way to do it is they have the magnesium oils, placing it behind the elbows, behind the knees, right left side of pubic hair near the hip and the heart. Another good way to get magnesium. Another thing I would like to talk about, in some cases, it took away a disease called scurvy, is food-based forms of vitamin C. In my book, Supplements Exposed, I blow out of the water the supplement industry. Obviously, it wasn't sold very often at health stores. But what I point out factually is 91% of all supplements on the market are deadly chemicals made in laboratories. They don't even resemble food-based supplements. There are 9%, 8% food-based supplements. That's the only thing I use, the only thing I sell and promote and tell people about. And that's powerfully important for you to understand. So taking a lot of different vitamin C doesn't help you at all. As a matter of fact, it weakens you in the form of ascorbic acid, which is 97% of the market is this. In my book, Dr. Scarborough, a colleague, stopped just before I was ready to publish it, and she said, "You're describing this in a too heady way." She said, what you do is tell them that vitamin C is a pie chart with 8 pieces in it. And ascorbic acid is one of those. If you're only taking that, you're missing 7/8. So when you put that chemical supplement, isolated nutrient into the body, the immune system attacks it. So how is that going to make you healthy? It does the opposite. And when you go to an alternative doctor, unless they get the vitamin C from cassava, a root vegetable, and Europe more often, beet greens, you literally are going to weaken your body by taking the very IV they told you was good for you. Alpha-lipoic acid. The Italians discovered this by mistake. It's a protein from that. What it does to the immune system is phenomenal. Now we're going to go on to glutathione, number 11. Glutathione's magic. It's a molecule that literally is the jet fuel for mitochondria. Mitochondria is, this is a really interesting story. I talk about this in an upcoming book, Quantum Human Biology. It's literally a life form that adapted itself to the human body. So when they test DNA, mitochondria, which was in every one of your 100 trillion cells, isn't human. But it literally hijacked the cells. And I literally believe, I actually believe, and I can give you, if we had time, history on this, that the human species would not have survived without mitochondria hijacking our cells. So the thing that makes that the energy source of the cell, what could be more important than that? Literally, figuratively, the brain of the cell is glutathione. And when you look at, for instance, diseases like dopamine reduction in Parkinson's disease, glutathione helps that. When you look at getting all the cells, the fighter cells, the killer cells in the immune system, geared up and with more energy, it can fight every disease known to man. It's an anti-aging element too. And they finally made an oral form, but our medical team at Hippocrates IVs it. We jack them up and then keep them at that level by liquid oral form. Most of it on the market is a sham. It doesn't work, doesn't break down. I did studies on the 6 that existed 15 years ago, and 2.5, 3 months later, tested, nobody had more glutathione. The new ones, you get glutathione, and IVing glutathione, tremendous. We actually vaporize glutathione for lung problems. So we started that about 3, 4 years ago. So if somebody has COPD or lung cancer or can't breathe for some reason, it's amazing. You vaporize it and you take it in like a mist, and it just heals the inner lining of that very soft cell tissue.